Hello, my friends. How's everyone doing? Great, me too. So, if you've been following this random series I decided to do, I've now covered the base set, jungle, and fossil sets in their entirety. The original trilogy, a new hope to Return of the Jedi, if you will. But I stated at the end of the fossil video that I've now come to a bit of a crossroads. The next set released after fossil was base set 2, and the one after that was Team Rocket. But the thing is, and I'll get more into that shortly, Base Set 2 is just a re-release of certain cards from Base Set and Jungle, and then as far as Team Rocket goes, I already made an entire video talking about all the Dark Pokemon, the main gimmick of that set. I said in the last part that I wanted to do a combination video of the two, but no, I have ultimately decided against that. I feel like I ended up having more to say about Base Set 2 than I anticipated, so I thought it actually should get its own video. I'll be discussing which cards they chose to re-release and which ones they didn't, and why I think that is. Listing a couple favorites, talking about the new theme decks, and all that good stuff. So roughly 4 months after the English Fossil set came out, Wizards of the Coast decided to release a set of re-release cards. Yet you thought rebooting Spider-Man after the Andrew Garfield era was quick, Base Set 2 came out less than a year after the Jungle set did in North America even. Base Set 2 was only ever released in English and featured cards from Base Set and Jungle, so why was this even a thing, especially so close to the original cards' debuts? Well, it can ultimately be chalked up to this being right in the midst of Pokemania. Cards were often very difficult to find in stores. I know because I struggled mightily back then. So this was a chance to reprint all of those cards and sell them again en masse and call it a new set. It was basically easy money for them. By this point, Fossil had been the big thing, so it was getting more difficult to find base set decks and packs, and in some cases jungle cards still in stock. I specifically remember going to stores when I was allowed to get a booster pack and only finding Fossil ones. I said that in the last video, but Fossil is my least favorite of the original 3 sets for that reason. I really wanted jungle packs, but I almost felt like I had to settle for those Aerodactyl or Zapdos packs instead, and I got a little tired of getting the same commons over and over again. Also, some evolution lines were completed from Base Set into Jungle, like Clefairy to Clefable or Doduo to Dodrio, so being able to find them all in the same set does make sense. Thus, Base 2 made its release on February 24th, 2000, just a few days before North America got its Pokémon Stadium release, with a gigantic total of 130 cards in the set. So not counting the Jungle Hollows and non-hollows being 2 different cards, there were 102 cards in the base set and 48 in Jungle. And after getting out my TI-84 graphics calculator and crunching the numbers, those add up to a grand total of 150, 20 higher than the 130 they chose for base 2. So what 20 cards did they choose to omit and why? Well, first I just want to quickly examine the booster packs because I actually really like the look of them. They're super basic as they're just the standard artwork over a mostly solid color, but they do stand out quite a bit. We get Pidgeot on the purple pack, Raichu on the blue-gray pack, Gyarados on yellow, and Mewtwo on red. I'm always fascinated by what Pokemon they choose to feature on these. Pidgeot is the only jungle Pokemon here, and it does seem to be the odd one of the bunch. I can absolutely see why they picked Raichu and Gyarados and especially Mewtwo. They're all very popular Pokemon, but I just find Pidgeot to be an interesting choice. So, okay, the set. Let's start out simple. First of all, there are 23 trainer cards here. Between base sets 26 and Jungle's, well, 1, that means they chose to omit 4 trainers. Clefairy Doll, Devolution Spray, Pokemon Flute, and Revive. Honestly, Revive is the only one that is surprising to me here. It seems like a very standard card mechanic to not have by being able to bring a Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench at half health. Devolution Spray and Pokemon Flute I can see, as while they can be useful under the right circumstances, they're very specific to situations where they would even be worth using. And Clefairy Doll works just like a mysterious fossil, so maybe that's why it's gone. Thus, we get all 23 remaining trainer cards here, all of which I already covered. On to the Pokemon themselves, so let's start with the rares. They did something kind of interesting here. There aren't holo and non-holo versions of the same cards like in Jungle, but 20 holo rares and 12 non-holo rares. This isn't dissimilar to how it was in base set, as Chansey, for example, was only a holo rare, and Beedrill was only a non-holo rare, so that makes sense. But what they did do in regards to the Jungle cards is make certain ones only holo and certain ones only non-holo. For the holos, returning from base set, we get Alakazam, Blastoise, Chansey, Charizard, Clefairy, Gyarados, Hitmonchan, Magneton, Mewtwo, Nidoking, Ninetales, Poliwrath, Raichu, Venusaur, and Zapdos. Literally only not including Machamp. Wow, poor guy. Machamp was the special first edition card included in the starter deck and wasn't found in booster packs in the base set, so that pretty much explains that. For the base set non-holos, all of them are included, so no omissions there. For the jungle holos, we get Clefable, Nidoqueen, Pidgeot, Scyther, and Wigglytuff, with the non-holos being Kangaskhan, Mr. Mime, Pinsir, Snorlax, Venomoth, and Victreebel. So now we've uncovered 5 more omissions here. Vileplume, the jungle version of Electrode, and wow, the Evolutions? That's another surprise based on how popular the Evolutions are. So far we know the 4 trainer cards not included, and then Machamp, Vileplume, Vaporeon, Jolteon, Flareon, Jungle Electrode. As far as the uncommons, there are 32 of them here, meaning 4 of them aren't included. So rather than go over every single uncommon and common here, it's probably easier to mention the ones that they didn't include. These 4 are Porygon, Gloom, Primeape, and Rapidash. Not including Porygon I can see. It's arguably the worst card in the entire first 3 sets. It can attack, has the lowest HP in the game, and can only change the defending Pokemon's weakness or Porygon's resistance. But I think it's kind of a shame that the Oddish line or the Mankey line aren't included. I love Primeape and Vileplume. I don't feel that strongly about Rapidash though. In regards to the commons, we now know a few that won't be here based on the evolution omissions. Eevee, Oddish, Mankey, and Ponyta. Also not included here are Coughing and Jungle Pikachu. Coughing not being here absolutely makes sense. Wheezing is from the fossil set, so having a lone Coughing who can't evolve in the set would be pretty weird. But then I looked into that more. A few specific ones that are in base set 2 are Dratini and Dragonair, Ghastly and Haunter, Drowsy, and Sandshrew. No Dragonite, Gengar, Hypno, or Sandslash, as those are all fossil cards. So what's that about? Same for including Machop and Machoke and not Machamp. I kinda thought one perk of being able to combine the 2 sets was to be able to have all completed evolutions intermingling with each other. That kinda bothers me. Include Ponyta and Rapidash instead of Machop and Machoke. Include Mankey and Primeape instead of Drowsy and Sandshrew. Is it because they wanted more base cards in and not jungle? Maybe? More type balances? I don't know. Some strange choices to me. But there we have it, the 20 cards not included in base set 2, therefore every other base set and jungle card is here. So just for something else, I thought it could be kind of fun to do a top 5 personal favorites list of each rarity here. I already discussed and ranked every card in the other videos, so here are my top 5s of each rarity when combining most of them for base set 2. These are just personal favorites to me, not necessarily the best, so keep that in mind. And Pokemon only, no trainers. For the commons, number 5, Cubone. Being able to use Snivel to keep Cubone active is nice, and then you can unleash some damage from Rage. Cubone can cause some problems to be against. Number 4, Execute. This was the first card to ever use 2 different types of energies, so that makes it a unique one here. Sleep moves are never my preferred tactic, but the option of Hypnosis is still a nice stalling tactic if you aren't able to use Leech Seed yet. Number 3, Starmie. It's one of those weird cases along with Metapod where the evolved form is still a common, and I think Starmie is pretty awesome in that sense. Starfreeze doing 20 and maybe paralyzing is just a good move, plus the option to completely heal with Recover. Not amazing, but it's a very solid common. Number 2, Tangela. It doesn't have a ton of HP, but it is a basic mon who can both paralyze or auto-poison. Ooh baby, give me that auto-poison any day. Tangela is a great addition to throw into any of these early grass decks. Number 1, Rhyhorn. Yeah, I just love this Rhyhorn. It's beastly with 70 HP and its moves complement each other nicely. You only need 1 colorless to start using Leer, just a perfect stalling move to be able to charge up for Horn Attack. If you're playing an energy per turn, that's potentially 2 moves from your opponent that won't hit Rhyhorn, and now you can hit them for 30 with some high HP and a lightning resistance on top of that. For the uncommons, number 5, Charmeleon. Charmeleon ramps up Charmander's card by quite a bit. They have similar moves, but Charmeleon is quite strong, hitting for 30 or 50, and has 80 HP on top of that. Another huge bonus is that Slash only needs colorless, and if you're powering up for a Charizard, that won't even matter there either because of Charizard's Pokemon power. You could still succeed throwing the entire Char line into any type deck even, which is kinda cool. Number 4, Dodrio. I think Dodrio is super underrated. Pretty high HP, no retreat cost, a fighting resistance, and rage is really quite good. You could be doing up to 70 damage for only 3 colorless. But its Pokemon power is such a nice bonus. Dodrio simply being on your bench lowers the cost of all of your other retreat costs by 1. Love it. Number 3, Kadabra. Kadabra is actually a lot like Starmie. Both have 60 HP, both have Recover, and both have an attacking move for 3 energies. Starmie takes 2 colorless though and has a much cheaper retreat cost, but Kadabra is going to stomp their team for 50 each turn from Super Psy. Super Psy is even stronger than Alakazam's Confuse Ray, so there would be some cases where you wouldn't even benefit from evolving Kadabra. I also love the black and red behind the artwork, it's a comfort card. Number 2, Dewgong. Dewgong absolutely rocks. I've used this card twice in my 2 Ice types challenges and it quickly became one to easily rely on. 80 HP is quite a bit for a second stage, and then Aurora Beam and Ice Beam? Come on. If you can power it up, Dewgong is going to make quick work of anybody in 1 to 3 turns. It's so good. And number 1, Exeggutor. If you've followed me at all, this is no surprise. I think Exeggutor is borderline broken, but oh so fun to use. It has high HP with 80, and Teleport simply negates its retreat cost. But Big Explosion is its ultimate claim to fame. You can throw down as many energies as you want of any type onto Exeggutor, and for each one, a coin is flipped doing 20 for each heads. With enough time, Exeggutor is going to absolutely demolish their team. And even if you get some bad coin flip luck for a turn, it'll still last a while with its high HP. I love Exeggutor and it's just oh so fun to use. And then we have the rares, and I'm counting holo or non-holo here. Number 5, Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime is just such a unique card. It's basic, has very low HP, and the move of Meditate, which can be weak or strong. But its Pokemon power of Invisible Wall is its claim to fame, preventing all damage done to Mr. Mime if the opposing move's power is higher than 20. It's such a nice twist that flips the entire strategy of the game, which is typically powering up your Pokemon to be as strong as possible. A simple Rattata is 100% more terrifying to Mr. Mime than a Charizard. It's a fun card. Number 4, Victory Bell. Yeah, this might be kind of a surprise, and I can guarantee a lot of you will strongly disagree with me here. I didn't like Victory Bell at all at first, but I just love it for being this deceptively strong gem. It has great HP with 80 and 2 cheap moves, only costing a total of 2 grass to use them. One is Lure, basically a permanent gust of wind, my favorite trainer card, and the other of Acid always does 20 damage and can lock the opposing Pokemon in play 50% of the time. Victory Bell can essentially put a stop to whatever sneaky strategy your opponent is trying to do. It's going to slowly whittle away at any Pokemon you want to take out. I love it. Number 3, Alakazam. So I had Kadabra in the top 5 uncommons, and even evolving it into Alakazam makes my list. Kadabra's Super Psy may be stronger than Alakazam's Confuse Ray, but Confuse Ray is still dishing out 30 and maybe confusing. But also, like, Alakazam's damage swap power is just crazy useful. You rearrange all damage counters on your team in any way you like, every turn. Got a couple useless Chanseys on the bench, just bring them the pain and you're good to go. Number 2, Venomoth. Another unlikely one, but I can't help it. Venomoth is just such a fun card. It's grass type, but it's also any type due to its shift power, where you can change Venomoth to any other type currently in play. It also has very good HP with 70, resists fighting, no retreat cost, and then Venom Powder is just a mad lad move. It's very cheap and only does 10 damage, but with that Kingly Heads flip, the defending Pokemon is about to feel the hurt, being both confused and poisoned. It's my favorite jungle rare and my second favorite base 2 rare. Number 1, and yeah, if you followed me at all, number 1 is no surprise. It's Nidoking. What a monster. A ton of HP with 90 and 2 moves. Thrash is quite good, but risky with the potential for self-damage. But its other move is why it's number 1 for me, Toxic. Toxic is a 20 damage dealing auto poison that does 20 each alternating turn. I've shouted my praises from the Nidoking mountaintops many times before, and this really is my kind of card. It just does suck that you need both Nidoran and Nidorino out first, but it is well worth it. Oh yeah, and an obvious honorable mention from the uncommon line. Paraspectre is back. Shroom boys, we meet again. Praise the Helix because the hills will run red with spores, even in base set 2. So that pretty much brings us to going over the theme decks, and there are actually 5 of them due to how many cards there are. Unfortunately, I do not own any of these, so I can't really show them like I did with base, jungle, and fossil. To be honest, I don't feel like it's necessary to get these. It is cool that there are some new deck concepts, ideas, and type pairings though, so let's check them out. Also, they all come with a pretty sweet looking Pikachu coin. First, they actually did make a sequel to the 2-player starter set from base set, this time known as 2-player CD-ROM starter set. Yeah, when was the last time you heard someone say CD-ROM? Yikes. But yeah, this actually included a game with it known as Pokémon Play It. This was like a very watered down version of the TCG on the Game Boy Color, as it was meant to teach you how to play. You can only battle against Julie and have a very limited assortment of decks you can use, all of them half decks with 30 cards. Very, very basic, not much to it, but it is pretty cool to see from a Pokemon history perspective because, I mean, yikes, look at it. Step aside Lavender Town, this is some of the scariest Pokemon stuff you'll ever see. And it was just a nice little bonus to go with the actual cards you're buying here. The starter set here is fighting water based and has a lot of familiarity with the base starter set. The fighting types here are actually exactly the same. Diglett, Machop, Machoke, and... wait, Machamp? But there is no Machamp in base set 2. Yeah, that's right, this is just a reprint of the first edition one from base set. No base set 2 logo. The only difference is the type of holo foil that is printed here. All of the holos in base set 2 have less of a star-like pattern like all of the previous holos had, and now have swirls and circles and dots. It's a slight change, but it's how you can determine if your Machamp is from base set or base 2. The water types included are Seal, Goldeen, Seaking, and Staryu, with the colorless ones being Meowth, Doduo, and Dratini. It's a nice little twist on the original starter deck, while also including some jungle cards and switching fire to water. All of the cards they picked are very basic, most of them having simple attack moves only. Diglett, Machop, Seal, Goldeen, Seaking, Staryu, and Dratini only have moves that do simple damage with nothing else to them. But our first theme deck here is going to be a grass fighting one known as Grass Chopper. This is the second grass fighting deck after Fossil's Bodyguard. The featured Pokemon on the cover here are my boy Sandshrew and Nidoran Female. And look at that, we actually get the return of 2 rares included here like they used to do in the base set theme decks, although neither of them are grass or fighting cards, which is kinda strange. The holo rare here is Clefairy, along with a trainer rare of super energy removal. Why they chose Clefairy is beyond me, but alright. I personally think it's a pretty meh card. Our grassy friends here are Nidoran Male, Nidoran Female, Nidorina, Bellsprout, and Weepinbell, with the fighting ones being Sandshrew, Machop, and Machoke. Bro, take it easy with just throwing Machop and Machoke in these theme decks, my god. This is the 5th time we have seen Machop in a theme deck. It's in both of the starter decks, Blackout from base set, and Water Blast from jungle. Enough with the Machop, there are other options. But really, I don't have much to say about this one. It's not very exciting. It is kind of funny that they chose to include both Nidoran, but then only Nidorina and not Nidorino, just to add to the confusion for any newcomers. I wonder how many people bought this as their first deck and evolved their male Nidoran into Nidorina because they didn't know. Yeah, this is kind of a boring one to me. The other trainer cards here are Energy Removal, Super Potion, Plus Power, Gust of Wind, and Potion. Hot Water is another fire-water deck alongside Lockdown from Fossil. Our cover Pokemon here are Charmander and Goldeen, and I think this deck is much better than the last one. Our holo rare this time is Poliwrath, actually completing a 3-part evolution in a theme deck. That is rare. The other rare here is Pokemon Trader. And yeah, our other water types here are of course Poliwag and Poliwhirl, and then the lone Goldeen, who they chose for the cover. Alright. Our fire types are Charmander, Charmeleon, and Magmar, with the colorless ones being Doduo and Dodrio. This one just feels so much more complete and stronger than the last one. Goldeen is really the only one that feels thrown in here, and then Poliwrath versus Clefairy from the other deck? Come on, give me that bodybuilder frog any day. The other trainers here are Energy Retrieval, Potion, Pokeball, Energy Removal, and Gust of Wind. I kinda love this one for a simple theme deck. Next is the Grass Lightning deck known as Lightning Bug, featuring Magnemite and Beedrill on the cover. Awesome idea for a theme deck, and look at that, it's our first Grass Lightning combo. Except unfortunately, it may not be that great of a deck. Our holo rare here is Chansey, giving off some Clefairy vibes. And yes, I was told after my base set video just how good Chansey is, so I guess that's a big improvement over Clefairy. But the other rare here is not a trainer card, but Beedrill, just like an overgrowth from base set. Our lightning cards here though are just Pikachu and Magnemite, which is just like the Zap deck. In fact, this is only the second theme deck to even include lightning cards too, so the only lightning Pokemon featured in theme decks throughout the first 4 sets are Pikachu and Magnemite. That's pretty lame. Yeah, I'm noticing a lot of similarities to older decks, and maybe that was the thought process behind it, who knows. Our grass-type bugs here are simply Weedle, Kakuna, Beedrill, Caterpie, and Metapod. Hey, here's a thought, how about we ditch Caterpie and Metapod and include, I don't know, Paras and Parasect? Having both the Caterpie and Weedle lines, but not even finishing the Caterpie one feels kinda lame too. Yeah, it's not a terrible deck, but in my opinion not as good as Hot Water. But there are quite a few trainer cards here too of Pokedex, Plus Power, Defender, Energy Retrieval, Switch, Gust of Wind, and Bill. And our final theme deck is another new type combination of Psychic and Water, known as Psych Out, with Drowsy and Seal on the cover. Our holo rare here is, let me brace myself, Wigglytuff, with the non-holo one being Computer Search. The Psychic types included are Abra, Kadabra, Drowsy, and Jinx. The water types are Squirtle, Wartortle, Seal, Staryu, and Starmie, with the other colorless one being, obviously, Jigglypuff. So not including the starter set, 3 out of the 4 theme decks come with a colorless holo rare. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is kinda strange, as I feel like if you're buying a dual type theme deck, you're going to want good cards of those types. You could interchange Clefairy, Chansey, and Wigglytuff into any of them and it wouldn't matter. Because of that, I gotta say that Hot Water is the best deck here in terms of gameplay and theme. It's the one that makes the most sense to me, but this one is okay too. There's more of an even split with 4 Psychic and 5 Water, and they are decent choices. So if I had to rank these decks in terms of which ones I would want to buy, I'd say Hot Water first, then Psych Out, Lightning Bug, and Grass Chopper last. I like the concept of Lightning Bug as that's a cool name and you know what you're going to get. But I think it sucks that they're just doing the Pikachu and Magnemite combo again. And the last thing I want to mention is doing my usual top 10 in terms of value. Again, this is basing it off the standard market price off of TCG Player as of the end of December 2023. The order will constantly change over time. Also, 8 of them are cards from base set, 2 of them are from Jungle, with not a lot of surprises here, and they're all holo versions. Number 10, Raichu at about 2004. Number 9, Gyarados at about 2116. Number 8, Zapdos at about 2213. Number 7, Pidgeot at about 2235. Number 6, Nidoqueen at about 2275. Number 5, Alakazam at about 2543. Number 4, Mewtwo at about 3263. Number 3, Venusaur at about 6616. Number 2, Blastoise at about 7870. And number 1, not even remotely close, is obviously Charizard at about 239.97. The top 3 here are significantly higher than the rest. The difference between number 5 and number 10 is just $5, so I find that pretty interesting. And the Pokemon in dead last is Staryu at about 28 cents. So I feel like that's about enough I need to say about Base Set 2. It's just a re-release set meant to put older cards back out there in the market with more a variety of options for booster packs. You actually can get both Doduo and Dodrio in the same pack for the first time. But if you were already a collector and had a nice collection of Base Set and Jungle cards, there wasn't much of a reason to go for these cards back then or now. I don't think I bought a single Base Set 2 pack back in the day for that reason, even during the age when Pokemon cards were life. And I really have little desire to get the set now. The re-release just came so close to when Base and Jungle came out that it felt a little unnecessary. But like I said, if you truly weren't able to find Base or Jungle packs back then, and that was entirely possible, this was a nice alternative to see. As far as the set looks nowadays, it just kind of exists as a new set to collect, and that's about it. If you're already collecting base and jungle cards, there's not much of a reason to get these unless you really want that 2 symbol. At least that's how I feel. Except for the fact that I collect every Paraspectre and Sandshrew card in existence. You better believe I snatched up the base 2 versions immediately, so my base set 2 collection sits at 2 cards. And hey, thanks for listening to me talk about these for a little. If you were really hoping this was going to be the 2-parter that I said it would, well, sorry. The Team Rocket episode will be next as we explore the new Dark Pokemon gimmick. I know I already made a video about all of these classic Dark Pokemon cards, but I did not mention the rest of the Team Rocket cards in the set, so that is what I will be doing next. I'll try not to repeat myself too much from that video, but I gotta look at it thoroughly. As always, an enormous base set 2 sized thank you to my Patreon friends here. My appreciations are genuine, as you have all chose to stick with me all this time, and that's awesome. If you'd like to see your name here too, check out what I offer at patreon.com/Paraspectre. Give my Paraspectre store at Bonfire a little look-see if you want to sport my logo, or just hit me up on the X, yes, I'm still calling it that, or my email. I'll see you all in the next one. Paraspectre will return.